No, it's good morning, everybody. Welcome to Uncommon Sense number 72. Craig Kamanis and Dean Holmes here with you again today. And today we've been set the challenge to talk about leadership in financial planning, which I think is a very critical topic for us to cover today, Dean. Lots of financial planners who become leaders obviously just started with client bases and looking after clients. And, you've heard me say this before, you shut your eyes and you wake up and you've got 12 staff.
Correct.
And how you lead them is really correct. So, mate, welcome. Great to be here with you. Why don't you get us started on this topic?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So I was thinking about this in a couple of different ways, and we'll talk about what I think is the journey of internal leadership. So that's exactly that point about I just started a financial planning business, and now I've got 30 people or 20 people within my team. So concept that we'll talk a little bit around is just managing that internal leadership. The second concept that I want us to think about today is a phase of what I kind of call external leadership, but that's all about how we're leading our business to our customers, clients, and the industry. So there's a little bit of leadership I think that's quite important around how the business stands up for its clients over time. We'll talk about that. And then the third component is that industry leadership to make the industry better. And so what are sort of the requirements and voices that we need in and around that as well to help take the industry forward. So we'll start at the smallest component, which is the leadership of the business overall. And what I found, Craig, is that we become that accidental hero in this context, and it's hard to be a leader and a financial advisor all at once, but we obviously have to do that. And so that's the hats that we always think about in terms of our daily activity, is we have to work out when we're being the advisor and when we're being the leader of the business or the leader of the team. And whilst you don't have to say that you're wearing a leader hat at that particular point in time, it is a change in your persona in order to lead the team and lead the business first and foremost. And so why do I think that this is really important is that I think that the team overall sometimes doesn't know where the business is going. And this is a challenge for your advisors, associate advisors, and staff, is they don't necessarily have a really good understanding of what was achieved in the past, even in the past quarter or year, and then what is the most important things for the next quarter, the next year, and the next 10 years, i.e. where the business is going. And so I encourage the business leaders to actually be having conversations with the team, probably quarterly or half yearly, but quarterly frequency is really important because retention is low in reality. And so having these conversations quarterly from a leadership perspective to remind the entire team where we've come from and where we're going. And the from is really important because we don't celebrate victories enough, Craig. And that's even if they are minor victories or minor jobs done, I think the celebration on that quarterly basis is really important to set the team up for the next 90 days and the next year as well in achieving. So spending time reflecting on what we've done. And then secondly, giving the team an idea of where we're going over the next 12 months. So that's one component of the leadership. And then the second component in and around this context, and then I'll get your thoughts, is how the company values get intertwined in those conversations. And so from my perspective, when we are small, medium businesses, company values and the values of the individuals that work for the company are really, really similar, if not identical. And so we need to still be reinforcing those company values into the decisions that we made and are making for the future of that business.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dean, on the celebration part. It's like it's almost like actually disappeared altogether. Like no one seems to celebrate anymore. Like I constantly ask business owners, like, have you stopped and smelt the roses lately? Like, have you just actually spent 5 minutes going, actually, I did really well? or the team did really well and all that. But it appears, I mean, even throughout, like that whole celebration piece feels like it's just gone. And I don't know why. I can't actually put my finger on it other than it's just time and it just gets breezed by. And, we carry on with other things in our mind and don't give it that space. But, I think the problem with that is that you could have a whole heap of team members sitting around going, it might be end of financial year, like we worked really hard, we did lots of stuff. It feels like they don't even care.
Yeah, correct. It's
Um,
yes, definitely. It's a good thing to take away is just how often we pause to celebrate, and then what we do to celebrate. And it's not, or it doesn't have to be the dinner and the drinks kind of celebration
no,
necessarily, but it's actually creating the time and space to pause and to reflect on that, what was the last 90 days, and celebrate that performance.
yeah, and on celebrations too, Dean, the challenge I throw down the gauntlet to everyone is, when's the last time you stopped and actually understood what would make your team happy in terms of the celebration?
Mm.
Like, let's go to the pub and have beers, and every one of them's probably going, oh, well, I want to go to the gym after work and I want to do this. And like, if you're not stopping actually to find out what motivates individuals too, then that could make a celebration even worse.
Even worse.
Just on
Absolutely.
your value point, Dean, on the company values and things, like, I think there's a really careful way to approach and do that. You've been around long enough, you've sat through 1,000 of these things. You might see a diagram that kind of looks like a house or something, or other different bits and pieces, and people go for their values and, they try and espouse it and try to make it sound good and look good and all of that kind of thing. And to me, yes, you have to have them, but they have to be felt more than anything else. And how you say them doesn't necessarily matter to me. It's what you come up with, the feeling for them. And when you're going through those doors every day, when I always say, when you're doing the job that you hate the most as part of your role, do you understand why you're doing it and which value that links to?
Mm, mm. Yeah, well said. The last bit on the values that I think reiterates that is turning the trust as a value into actually active words that you would say
Yeah.
to a client. So what my preference always when we work on values is that it ends up going into a sentence, and that sentence you're proud enough to tell to a client, your staff, and let's say your mum,
Yep.
in that context, because that has taken it from something that sits on the the kitchen in the office. If I was to think of big corporate, right? We've painted our values on the wall, so therefore everyone believes in them.
Yep.
We're taking it off the wall and turning it into everything that we do. And so that's a leadership component in all of those categories. We lead our staff by communicating our values and acting, but reiterating and communicating our values. We lead our clients because what I would love is to take your values and use it in new client and old client meetings. The reason why XYZ clients should come and work with your firm is actually because you articulated your values in the first meeting, not that you articulated you're really smart.
Yeah.
It's all about who you are and the connection, and communicating at values level improves that connection over time as well. So internally, we get this element of staff and clients following values, which is following the leader of the company. But to conclude that, Craig, it's that element, that missing element of remembering that sometimes you're a leader and sometimes you're an advisor, and you do have to do both. Even though you're really busy, we have to do both and create time in the quarter or the year and the week for your leadership activities to push it forward as well. And so I think the leadership of the clients is a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about lately. Is how do you move from individual advisors advising clients to create this sort of knowledge and understanding that the leaders of the company are doing things for your entire client base. And so I've just been experimenting with, in my mind, essentially just thinking about what activities leaders of financial advice firms could do to almost make clients aware that there's more people in the business, if you know what I mean. It's a leadership that has certain goals for their clients, even though the advisor may not be talking about those. So a couple of examples that I've had of late is just involving the leaders of the company doing sort of cybersecurity leadership with their clients. So it has lots to do with financial advice, but also nothing. But it's actually a view that the company is taking, going, we need to make sure that clients know about their cybersecurity risks. And then the advisors don't have to deliver that, but it's actually coming from the top down to all the clients. And so that is one example. It makes the business stronger over time, because I feel that clients know that there's a leadership that's making decisions that's not just the advisor.
Yeah, no, mate, I agree with you. It's the leadership of people who don't report to you has always been a strong element that rolls around in my mind. I mean, if you think about the roles I've had, a lot of it is about trying to lead people who don't report to you.
And you mean like external advisors as well, like when you think about that, or just internal people?
Yeah, like external advisors, right? Like
Yeah.
the reality is Paradigm's going in a direction. This isn't a plug for, don't worry about that, but you know, the business is going in a direction that we're taking it on from a trajectory perspective, and we have to show leadership with that. We have to lead, even though you're a client, we provide you with a service, whatever direction that goes in, it has to be a leader, and it has to show leadership to the people who are clients of it. And what I've learned over time, and this is just as relevant for the financial advisor, who's the leader of their business leading their clients, is leadership doesn't equal popularist. If you sit back, you can watch the leader who tries to just be the absolute most popular person in the room, and have everyone, just love them and that, but what do they actually really get done? Versus someone who's actually willing to have people go, I like him or her or them because they're a good leader. And I can see they've got the right trajectory, the right interests at heart, and they want us to be successful.
Absolutely. And this is probably the segue now into that external leadership component of saying, well, what does leadership of a dealer group or like a product manufacturer kind of thing, just in the two categories, or an insurance company, to get all three, how do they lead the industry and lead their advisors that they're partner of to take that forward? And I think that that's a really interesting challenge and opportunity that different practices, different businesses in that area can choose different paths. They can be really vocal in that leadership, or they can be very internally focused in their leadership as well. And I think that there's a great opportunity in terms of leadership and financial advice to make sure that we've got a growing number of voices championing the industry overall for advisors.
Yeah. And, that, Dean, means you have to have a view, and it has to be a well-researched view. And then you have to be able to try and influence it. And, let's face it, the influencing of those kind of views has been tremendously hard.
Yes.
And you can talk to your blue in the face sometimes, and some of these issues won't disappear. What I love when I think from my practices that I was talked to from a leadership perspective like that, though, in terms of things for the industry and stuff, is like you often get a lot of them go, they're carrying on and on and on about, not having an SOA and having a different document. We've had SOAs for years, and we're still running successful, profitable businesses. We know how to do that. It's actually, how do you pare stuff back so I can keep looking after more clients? Right. That's the real thing here. So I think it's, if you're doing that kind of influencing and that kind of leadership, it's about what is your view and make sure it's articulate. Who do you try and influence with it? But also, how do you set expectations of that influencing? Because you hear, again, no, we've spoken to this person, we've spoken to that person. But, it's, how does something actually really get done, Dean? Like, we've got a lot of voice behind this. And
and lots of it. And that is a challenge, probably, that advisors think that they want a leader or leadership. We want leadership in the industry, but it's also really hard in the context of all the other activities that are going on as well. And so that's the leadership that they look to is those categories of licensees, products, and industry associations to see, well, how can they all band together to communicate a set of outcomes that we want, but the right set of outcomes. And obviously, everyone has different vested interests and understanding in and around that. The other thing about the leadership in terms of as firms start to change, so the idea of succession planning. So if we come back to the financial planning business that has a couple of advisors, there's this challenge that's coming at the moment of we're training the next generation of advisors within the business, most probably training the next generation of leaders, but how do we transfer that leadership at the right time to someone that might be younger in the business, may not yet be the full owner of the business, but we need them to have a voice.
It's a real tough one, isn't it? Like, how do you switch that over? Number one, as the person probably exiting at some point, there's got to be a bit of an ego drop. And a little bit of, okay, it is actually okay to let go. But I always find it nice if there's an endorsement. If you kind of anoint the next person and endorse them, I think that goes a long way. And then it's
you're endorsing them like publicly, Craig. Like
endorsing them publicly. Yeah, absolutely. Letting them, like, it's simple stuff for me. Like, oh, there's good news to give it to the other person to give that good news. Shift your ego out the way and go, I don't have to give every piece of good news. Like, I'll let them do it. And then, that'll help them build. If there's a tough conversation to have, help them have the tough conversation. Work on how you're going to communicate to clients. And do you start to, like, sort of, you do one, I do one, you do one, I do one, just so you start to build the popularity up? Or do you take away from an individual email and create a business email so that you end up then setting up the next person for success for their succession later on down the track, because they become business clients of the business, not necessarily clients of the individuals?
Correct. And that's definitely the clients of the business. As the business grows, there is that need for leadership, as we were saying earlier, about the business leading the clients overall. And then there's that element of the changing of that guard, in that there's multiple people stepping up on that plane to lead the clients. And often all of this is not seen. Like, we don't see this in the SME world, is that you don't see the leadership changes that need to occur or that have already occurred within an individual financial planning business. But the idea of all of us having to think really seriously about the succession and what that means for the continuation of the business. If you're intending to sell your business to the highest bidder, that changes. But often, as we've talked about on different succession ones, Craig, is that the leadership that's another ego thing, that the leadership is actually changing because you're selling, and the seller, you can't really try to claim anything of what the values or the leadership might be of the other business, and the clients go on that journey over time without you having much of a say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the quicker you accept that, the better off you will be.
Absolutely. And so that's a really interesting point on the other side, is that if you're a business that is acquiring businesses, your client leadership is actually really key at that point in time, so that when those clients come into the business, they're going to be allocated an advisor, and the advisor is going to have one-on-one conversations with those clients to hold their hand. But I want us all to be thinking about the leverage that we can get from, I call it one-to-many, is how many opportunities can you get from the leadership to talk to all of the clients. And technology is allowing this to be done so easily now compared to the past. So we can run what you may have run 10 years ago of hiring the art gallery and having 200 clients in there for networking, and you give a 5-minute speech. We can now turn those into mini events that are personalized for each type of client. So not everyone wants to go to the art gallery, but you might personalize topics and run a webinar that clients can drop into constantly and hear from the leadership of the company, not just their advisor.
Yeah.
Okay. Could be two different people. It probably needs to be as the business grows in that context as well. And guess what? The leaders don't have to be financial advisors eventually as well.
No, and that's right, mate. And that was going to be the question I kind of was going to pose to you on when, like, the decision about, I actually just want to be a senior planner and look after clients, so therefore I need to hire a leader in because of the size that I've got now.
Yep.
Versus, and that's a really good admission, I think, versus then, I'm going to try and hang on, but I actually don't like the leadership stuff. Like, I don't like people issues. I don't like people, but I don't like people issues. I don't like issues. So, that brave decision of actually going, I'm happy to be the majority owner, for example, and keep being the senior advisor and seeing clients and actually invest in someone to run the business for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a magical thing that when you talk to most advisors and you say to them, what do you like the most about your job? And they'll say some category of client meetings. That's the bit that they love the most. And yet by virtue of building a business, they're essentially doing themselves out of the role that they love the most.
Yeah.
So the best advisor that loves spending time with the clients grew their business such that they never get to see their clients anymore. And you're absolutely right. It is okay to vary your business structure to have people in there that are doing the jobs that you don't want to do, so you can be the best advisor in that world. And often, if you think about, like, if you look at say Morgan Stanley, like big, those bigger houses, there's businesses within a business in there, i.e. that there's a team of 5 that run clients and they do all the investing and they look after those clients really, really well. But they're within the infrastructure of Morgan Stanley, so they don't have to worry about the HR, the management, the advertising, the IT, and all of those elements. Same thing can happen for your medium SME business, is that once you get to a certain size, you can then have that manager in there. May not, manager and leader are two different things, but they might allow you to have a manager first and foremost. And then that manager can grow into that kind of leadership role over time as well. And you get to focus on what you love doing the best.
Yeah.
And that's a really, that is our ability, Craig, as business owners, is you should be able to do that and not get sucked into things that you don't want to do. And that would be the ideal outcome for the vast majority of advisors there. And probably we're seeing that in terms of consolidation of the industry overall. So we're seeing that there are leaders that are acquiring and telling a consistent story to advisors and business owners and growing the number of advisors within their practices around a core set of values, obviously, and then around a core leadership principles for the internal, first and foremost, the internal staff, but then external, just at one level out of thinking about how are we leading our clients as a collective is really key. Whether that leader then goes and tries to influence the industry is a harder one in small business. But I would love just the lens of leaders within small businesses today to look at how am I leading my team as a collective, and then how are we leading our clients as a collective? And if you spend a little bit of time in that second one, I think it's great for client retention, referrals, service, and the advisor doesn't have to do much of that work. It's at that, what I call that leadership level.
Yeah, mate, I think all of those points are really, really valid. And it's about action now too. So if you're listening to this and kind of going, oh, some good points there, go and implement them. Do it. Think about it.
Chat to Craig and I. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. Call it one-to-many clients and client leadership. Come and talk to us about what we're doing with other practices, and also just let us know what you are already doing in terms of client leadership, and client education probably would be a set subcategory to help the advisors in their roles.
Yeah. And I think that whole concept of leading these clients sums up something I was speaking to someone the other day, and I completely agree with it, Dean. And that is that, it's really the financial advisors that, should be charged with making sure all Australians get advice. That's not the super fund's job. It's not anyone, it's actually financial advisors. And so, we can look to start to do that through leading our clients. We can look to start to do that through an array of stuff that's available to us. But, that's the position we can take in the market as advice business owners. It's us that should own that, no one else.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Well said, Craig. Well, that will finish our episode number 72 of UnCommonCents. So thanks for listening live on LinkedIn. If you are listening in the podcast or YouTube world afterwards, you can definitely reach out to us in the comments there. Please like and subscribe and all those kind of things. Maybe we'll grow the base that way as well. So thanks very much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Craig.